know someone who's got a $500,000 position in this.
So we got Lance on the show today. Thank you, Lance,
boys?
for coming on DGen Media. Really appreciate your time. Became pretty good friends over the past few months. This is Freelance, aka Lance is his real name, and he is an altcoin trader, very successful NFT trader, and all of the above. So you're going to get to know him today, and hopefully we'll learn something. So Lance, if you could give a little background on how you got into NFTs and crypto in the beginning, and kind of just go from there.
Oh yeah, well, thank you for having me, Will. I really appreciate the time and energy you're putting into building all these channels. I got into crypto, it was 2016. I had heard about it in the past. I didn't really wrap my head fully around it. It seemed a little too technical for me when I had first heard about it. It was probably like 2010, 11. You needed to like keep all your key. Like there was no Coinbase, there was no MetaMask, no mobile wallets and things like that. So it was a very different environment back then. Come 2016, I was out of school. I was kind of traveling, and I was actually couch surfing. Made my way out to San Diego, and shout out my dog. He dropped out of law school. He was on a full ride scholarship.
Jesus.
Dropped out of, I forget if it was San Diego USD or if it was San Diego State, but dropped out completely to intern for free with like a Bitcoin wallet company.
Probably a good move looking back.
In hindsight, an excellent move, absolutely.
Probably got called crazy in the beginning.
100%. But it while I'm sleeping on his couch, like, he's got a desk over here, and he's literally printing textbooks about smart contracts and the Byzantine general problem and all, like literally stacks of papers coming out of the printer like this to read. And so we started talking about it a little bit. I downloaded one of the earlier like wallet companies, whatever he was working with, started buying some Bitcoin, and it just it never left me from that point on. I didn't go super heavy into it. I played around a little bit, but I was trying to find work, like be a normal 9-to-5 person,
All right.
And but over the next 2-3 years or so, pretty much all of my disposable income went into buying Bitcoin and then exchanging it, or buying Ethereum and exchanging it, etc., etc. Yeah, I was big on Poloniex, big on Binance back then, before it was Binance US and all that kind of shit.
So then that was like 2011, 2012-ish?
No, this is 2016, 2017.
2016, 2017. Okay,
Yeah.
So then after that whole bull market and dump, then did you leave or did you stay?
Nah. So that's when, I had probably put a little bit of money in, and it ballooned, because if you were there in 16 or even early 17, I think Bitcoin went from like 5,000 to 20,000 in the span of about a month, from Thanksgiving till the beginning of January of 18. Yeah. So, you could have multiplied a lot, but then of course everything dropped pretty quickly. After everything dropped, I continued to accumulate, because what I had found in my research and what I was looking at the time, it just seemed like critical infrastructure for everything that they were building smart contracts for, and that wound up being true. So
cool. So what was your first big buy or like big bet other than Bitcoin?
Yeah, so when I got into crypto, I was like trading Bitcoin futures on this one website that's no longer, it's defunct. I was trading shitcoins on Poloniex and Binance, and after about 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, I started learning about this one project, but it wasn't a project yet. And then in September of 17, they had their ICO, and it was extremely frustrating because there was like a cap, like you needed to have a certain amount of ETH to participate.
Right.
And I couldn't fully participate, but there was a group of us we all met online, and we pooled money to get into this ICO.
Basically like a seed round, almost like you got in pre-ICO.
No, it was for the ICO. The ICO, like if I recall correctly, it was like 32 ETH minimum to get into the ICO.
Okay.
So there was like literally people that created a pool, you know, and it was complete. I mean, this is the heart of decentralization, right? Just random internet strangers that have met on forums. And this is pre-crypto Twitter. Crypto Twitter was barely a thing at that point. We met on different Bitcoin Talk and different websites that'll remain unnamed. But yeah, and then got in. So my largest hold by February 20th of 18, and I can go back on certain wallets and find transactions. I was pretty much 95% all into Chainlink.
Chainlink. So, most of your accumulation was in that first month that it came out, was it?
No. I mean, when it first came out, it was in that bull cycle, so it immediately ran up, not massively, but you know, was going up, and then everything collapsed. So over the next year, as everything's going down, and I'm doing more research and I'm understanding the scope of this project and what they're aiming to accomplish as far as providing data for smart contracts to execute, and like the ways they're going about doing it, and the little connections to who was writing about them, what conferences were they at the time. They were at Sibos, which is one of the like eminent like fintech conferences. 2 years in a row, they were the only blockchain company there.
That's a good sign,
right? And the founder of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, had written about them in his book in 2016, like before they even had a token and before it was even called Chainlink. It was just called smartcontracts.com. So the more I was researching and finding all these connections and everything, I was just like, all right, yep. I literally had my head down. I wasn't really going out. I wasn't really partying. I was just putting money into the market.
Cool. All right, so you accumulated Chainlink. You basically caught it right when it came out, and then after you kind of honed in on Chainlink, where did you go from there?
So I mean, from that point, it was mostly Chainlink. I messed around with like the Graph GRT. I do think that there's a lot of use case for that project. That was probably like 19 or 20. Coming into the pandemic, like DeFi summer kicked off, right? Which, as someone who was heavily invested into Chainlink, which provides price feeds for most of the DeFi ecosystem, I was very into seeing these protocols as they were coming up, Aave and Compound, and all these different DeFi platforms and dApps. So I got super into that. Got super into yield farming. I was farming yams and sushi token. There was like a whole food meta. It's funny because there's been this whole debate the past 2 weeks, or there was last week, whatever. Like, are NFTs just shit coins with pictures? And it's like, bro, in DeFi summer, the shit coins with pictures were literally shit coins with like it was the yams. It was all about farming. So there were all these different food tokens cropping up, and I don't know. There's definitely a comparison there for sure.
So for people that don't know what farming is, could you kind of explain like what you were doing with that? Yeah,
so yield farming is basically generating passive income, yield, off of providing, in essence, liquidity, providing funds to a platform. It was called rotating your crops, or harvesting and rotating. Like you would find out that this new protocol is launching. They need liquidity, so they're offering a 10,000 APY, and that would last for a week. And then by the next week, it's down to like 800, but there's a new one coming out. So you were in a constant state of like rotating your capital and finding new places, and then getting into like Uniswap and providing liquidity in an actual pool like that. Like there was all different ways to experiment and start learning how to use your money to make more of it. And actually that is what allowed me, I guess, to get into NFTs, because I didn't really want to sell my Chainlink. But I used Aave. I put some Chainlink up as collateral, and then I started buying NFTs with that. So
in other words, you put up X amount of Chainlink, and then Aave gave you a loan to... Correct. In what, Ethereum or in Aave?
So I've done it both ways. You could take the loan in Ethereum. You could take the loan in a stable coin. So in a bull market, your best bet is to take the loan in stable coins, right? Because if Ethereum's going to go from $1,000 to $5,000 and you owe 10 Ethereum, but you just went from owing $10,000 to fucking $50,000, right?
Right.
And so if you play, the best way to do it is stables in a bull, but then in a bear, it's kind of the inverse, right? Like I just collateralized one of my apes, and then I took the ETH and immediately put it into USDC, and then when everything had kind of settled a little bit more, I bought ETH back, and I had extra, leftover cash, and I got the ape out of the DAO, like the DeFi app that I had collateralized it on.
Jeez. So, okay, so if someone is getting into NFTs and getting into crypto and stuff like that, obviously you probably wouldn't want them to go straight into leverage trading and collateralizing assets to do that. But for someone that is going in, do you suggest to them, if you were to suggest to them, to buy and hold or to trade in and out?
So I think you have to monitor your own attention span and your own decision-making abilities to come to that decision. I would say if you really wanted to trade, maybe you set aside, maybe you make 2 wallets. You put 80% into like a long-term wallet that you're just going to hold, and then you put 20% into a trading wallet, and then you can trade and you go from there. And at least you're starting off smaller. There's a lot of rules that you can follow, which I'll be getting into on my channel, but ways to set yourself up to kind of protect yourself from the losses or the drawdowns and maximize your profit. Make sure that you're always staying in the game. I think that's one thing that I do see a lot of is people just blow themselves up quickly on a few trades, and then they think everything is a scam and they walk away forever.
Yep.
Or they buy it at a bad time, everything drops, same thing. Oh, I lost all this money. So one way to avoid that would be like dollar cost averaging. You just buy slowly over a few months or whatever, instead of saying I'm going to buy $10,000 of Ethereum today and then watch next week it's $100 lower, a month later it's $500 lower. Yeah. It's like, damn, I could have bought that much more. So if you space it over time, and now that we're in like this bear market, that's the time to be
going a little heavier,
right?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I talk to you a lot more than obviously most people do, and you are a pretty active trader in some regards to some smaller altcoins, like small caps. Could you talk about any of your like recent plays the past couple months, and kind of why and like what your thought process was for executing the trades?
Yeah. So there's a reason I rock the ape profile picture. There's a reason I even felt that enough to get into it in the first place. I wasn't into NFTs. My buddy had brought me a few different projects. Not gonna name any names. The first one, I'm like, what are those, cartoon skulls? Like, nah, I'm good, bro. And then the second one is like horse racing. I'm like, that's cool. Like my papa loves horse racing. We would go bet on the tracks, but it's still not like my shit. Like, I'm into this DeFi infrastructure, like smart contracts. Like, what is like I didn't really see it. And then he brought me Bored Apes, and because of the terminology in the crypto sphere, where you were aping from one project to the next, you were bored because you're not at work anymore, you're not, it just like, it struck. Like, you can literally search my Twitter feed and you'll see things where it's like, I'm so bored aping into this project. And that's from summer of 2020. This is before NFTs were even like that big, or before Bored Ape was out at all, even an idea yet.
Right.
So that's what that's just giving a little bit of background to get to the next point now, which is, I like trading, but I do like trading these like micro cap. It's called shit gem roulette, basically, right? You're almost playing in a casino, but you're looking for opportunity that, if you can get something at $1 million market cap or 500K market cap and it goes to 50 million, it's a nice multiply,
Right. So, I mean, do you feel comfortable naming a recent one?
Yeah, so one of the recent ones is called Suka. It's the dragon coin.
Okay.
It's really a decentralized, community-driven coin. The the Sukha Sangha, as they call themselves. Sangha is like community, and it's all based around these Tibetan principles of meditation and like being in flow with the universe and the state of affairs of what's going on in a way. But the thing that got me with this project is that there were a number of clues between Twitter and mostly the blockchain, like on Etherscan, where the dev, who's anonymous, was like leaving breadcrumbs and different leaving breadcrumbs and different messages. You know, there were like 2 specific transactions that were 0.0002009 ETH, and then another one that was like 1969. Maybe it was 2019, but and then within those was like a hex message, and then within other posts, same shit. So a lot of clues that point to the developer of this token potentially being Ryoshi, who is the guy that's behind Shiba Inu token, which was one of the largest like meme tokens of the last bull run, maybe 2021. A lot of people that I've spoken to since I got into the project, which was the end of June, early July, they do believe that there's credence to these breadcrumbs. They think that there's something there. And I'll never forget, like, I don't know if it was Kobe or, you know, some larger account that I've been following for a few years, like, mentioned, you know, these meme, like, shit coins that have absolutely no market cap or use case right now. Like, those are the ones that could be the next Shiba or Dogecoin or Floki Inu or whatever the fuck
right.
shit coin of the month is. So I know someone who's got a $500,000 position in this.
In Suki?
Yeah, and he's accumulating more all the time.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I'll look on Etherscan, I'll see who the whales are, I'll see if I can find anything interesting going on with their wallets, anything it's connected to. I'll search if they have an ENS, I'll try to find them on Twitter, see what they're talking about. And then too, some of these projects, they'll have a Telegram group or something, so you hop in there and you see who's the most active, who the early people were, and you try to talk to them and, you know, see if they have any insight or input or anything like that.
Cool. Okay, and so we kind of skipped over it a little bit, but you are a Miami ape.
Correct.
You're in the Bored Ape Yacht Club. You've got how many apes?
I'm down to 1 ape right now.
One OG ape, and then
4 mutants, and then if you count the serums as mutants, I have another 2.
So you have like
two
basically
serums.
like 6 mutants.
Yeah.
1 ape. Okay, so what do you think is, like, why do you think it's plus EV to even be in that ecosystem? Because that's a lot of money to have tied up into a project. I mean, if people want to do the math, having 1 Bored Ape and then 6 mutant apes, like, it's a lot of capital be tied up into one project.
Yeah, I mean, I like the art. But no, you're not wrong. I'm going to tell a little anecdote real quickly, though. I ran into a buddy of mine. He's one of the first crypto accountants in the United States. We ran into each other at Bitcoin 22 because he's living the digital nomad life these days. He's all around the country. Shout out Tabo. But one of the things he said when he asked me, like, oh, what are your, because he's like, oh, this is an NFT party. Like, I knew you were super into Chainlink. Like, what are you doing here? I was like, oh, I'm in Bored Apes now, da-da-da. And he's like, oh, what does your portfolio look like? I was like, bro, to be honest, it's like split between like Chainlink, and then there's another service called Link Pool, which is like, but I consider those in a similar investment bag. And then like the Yuga assets, the apes, the mutants, now obviously land and shit like that. I was like, bro, those are my 2. Those are like my 2, right? And then if there's opportunity to trade things, I'll take it. But I'm not really trying to get involved with every freaking project under the sun. You know, God bless them. I hope they all do well. And he laughed and he goes, you know, it's interesting you say that, because most of my like 100,000-aire clients, they've got like 1 of everything. And then most of my multi-millionaire clients all have very concentrated holdings. And I think Warren Buffett talked about that too, like concentrated bets, especially when you have asymmetrical information. So if you do the research and you can find things early, there's really no point in diversifying your bags. Like, you know, if you can understand what a project is aiming to achieve, or or anything like that, and you decide like this is a good bet and you stick with that, obviously you want to be right, but it can work out really well instead of just like trying to throw a bunch of darts at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, and how well can you actually track and pay attention, especially if you have to be in Discords and be active in those? How well can you do that if you're invested into 20 different projects compared to if you're in 2?
I realized that last year as well. Especially as Bored Apes were kind of making their ascent, I was like, damn, this NFT market is pretty crazy. And of course, now you've got friends in your network, and you're starting to mint other projects that people are bringing to you as far as what they're working on. You're starting to mint other projects based on other personalities or like reputations of, oh, they're working with this, da da da. And then you're trying to hop in the Discord and you're following them on Twitter, and you're just getting barraged with information nonstop, 24/7, and it's like, how do you keep up? It's tough.
Yeah, you can't.
So if you really want to be on top of something and be knowledgeable about that, then you do have to kind of focus in a little bit. So Yuga assets, that's why I have so many of them, just because I see them as a forerunner in this space, or at least they have been over the past year. You never know. I mean, there could be a MySpace moment or something like that. So yeah, you always want to stay on top, but that's why if you're on top of it, like, you're gonna see things coming. You keep an eye on the whole market, but you stay on top of your investments, and you know what's going on, and then you don't have to worry about it as much.
Cool. And so another thing about Lance is he is in the music industry. He has his own recording studio in Fort Lauderdale. So did you want to talk about that a little bit at all?
We're definitely in the midst of this whole revolution with NFTs, right? And I don't know if anyone's fully figured it out with music yet. We're very eagerly watching to see how things go. We actually just had one of the artists that we manage, we had him perform at a crypto Web3 NFT pop-up event with a bunch of members of the community in Miami, and that went well. They all wanted like to support him, and so I know that there's like lanes, right? But we also don't want to just like, oh, we're gonna make 10,000 avatars with different colored hair and different facial tattoos, and then we're just gonna do a cash grab. Like, we don't want to do something like that.
Right. So you're trying to figure. You're still watching and seeing how to maneuver with it to bring the music into the NFT space.
For sure.
Cool. Well, that's all I had. I appreciate you for coming on, Lance. Thank you so much.
Definitely, thank you.
And if people are gonna follow you or anything, where should they go?
Freelance, it's at FR33LVNCE. Cool. So stylized, because everything I do, I haven't had a job in like 3 years. I've been freelance photography, freelance consulting, freelance advising.
Freelance is a good name.
Right?
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to be free. Also, we'll save that one for later. There's a deeper meaning in there, but you got to know me to know that one.
All right. Thank you, Lance. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.